All right, everybody, welcome to a new episode of the new, you know, let's say no bullshit podcast for, contractors, contracting owners out there. In this episode, guys, I'm super pumped to have Sergio here from Molino Drywall, and he's going to share to you guys how he went from honestly barely paying himself and feeling the pressure of a business that was unstructured, and to now being able to just had a newborn baby, right? And his profits are going in the right direction. Stress is starting to go away. Still got a ways to go, but we're going to dive deep into the power of back costing, okay? The power of accountability and systems, and show you, and talk with you guys to show you how Sergio was able to, turn a 70% material cost variance into a 20% gain, from a 2% net profit bottom line into an 18% and it's still climbing, all while gaining the time to focus on what matters most, which is his family and his future. So now, without further ado, my man of the hour, let's welcome, from Profit for Contractors, one of our champion CEOs, Sergio. Welcome, my man. How you doing?
I'm good, Andrew. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here, bro. Thanks for being here. The abundance mindset. What do I mean by that, all you listeners? It takes time. Sergio's taking time out of his day, and he's sharing things under the hood, a little bit of vulnerability to actually help you guys. Okay, so I wanted to thank you, Sergio, for being willing, A, to take the time, and B, being able to be a little bit vulnerable to share like where you came from and where you're at now. So thanks, man. It means a lot to me and all the listeners. So appreciate that big time. So you had a newborn. How's the family?
Family's good. I mean, first and foremost, I want to thank you and give back. Not long ago, I was sitting in my truck driving to a job with very little hope, listening to this podcast.
Mm.
Burn through it
So,
every
yeah,
episode.
so like let's talk a little bit about that, right? Like if you look at back before, and look, guys, I want to share something here. This is one of the things that triggered this was Sergio did a post. We got hundreds of other champion CEOs. So Sergio did a post here in the group. And just share this with you guys, okay? And this just like I love seeing these wins. We get tons of them every single week. Can you see this, Sergio?
I can see it.
Okay. A little late on this post, we're sharing when we first started going deep into back costs and we found out profits weren't what we thought. We had leaks all over the board. Materials were minus 17%, labor minus 4, other costs minus 20. Net profit average was 2%. Fast forward 15 jobs later, materials now are 20% positive. Labor's plus 4%. Other charges down to 0%. Net profit now averaging 18%. He says, you said here, these weren't random results. They came from sitting down with Coach Andrew, creating a clear plan, staying consistent, and having real accountability. We're now building systems to protect these wins and keep things running lean. The best part, the bank account reflects the numbers, and that brings peace of mind. I've also been finding more tasks to delegate and spending more time on high-level strategy. This stuff works. So, dude, let's spin the clock back. So you said, I remember you saying when we first started chatting that we're right on the fence of shutting her down. Is that true?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Where were you at? That wasn't that long ago, was it?
No, I think you're talking about a year and a half ago.
That's right. Yep.
I was sitting in my home office, just really looking at the numbers at my P&L statement. Didn't really understand what was going on there, but I could understand
Mm-hmm.
the bottom line was not good. And we just I had a baby back then, so now I'm on my second daughter. But that was my first daughter, and I was looking at there and I was like, man, it's tough. I'm not paying myself. I'm getting these good custom jobs. I'm getting quality work. Why is there no money left over? What's going on?
Mm.
Because I had work. I know I started off strong, but I mean the numbers weren't reflecting it. Um, my time wasn't reflecting it. I was just always running around. felt like I was just putting in so many hours, not paying myself. And a lot of like the industry standard, I feel like when you start your own company, like the old school guys will tell you that's how it is when you start a company.
Mm.
Everyone tells you that. That's how it is. Welcome to life,
What do you mean? What did they tell you? Like what that you're not going to make money for a while, that you're like what's the old school guy say?
Yeah, basically the first years in business, you're just gonna be under. You're not gonna be able to pay yourself. You're not gonna have time for anything. You're just paying
Hmm.
taxes, and I mean that's what a lot of the old school guys tell you. Just kind of like, and it's just, and I felt it, and I felt it, and I was ready to hang it up. I was at a crossroads where I was like, when I was working as a technician for a different company, I was making my $1,500 a week,
Hmm.
and now I'm not paying myself. So is it really worth it? So I started just trying to educate myself, look for routes, find out what's going on, talk to people, and I stumbled on the No Bullshit podcast and
Hmm.
started just hearing. I looked at a bunch of different podcasts. I did look at a couple, but this one was the one that really stuck out because it was really just like the real problems we face as contractors. We're not paying ourselves, not enough time, running around.
Hmm.
The competition was beating me out on all these jobs. So I was like, how are they beating me out? But I'm still not making money. What's
Hmm.
going on? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? You add to that, whether, some of you guys listening in, it's hit you yet, but we got this, I wouldn't call it not turf war. Like I'm Canadian, a lot of our champion CEOs are Canadian, US. I love, the US. I love, Americans. I love the Canadians. But the reality is, it doesn't matter which side of the border you're on. You got uncertainty in the market. So more than ever, like you go back to a year and a half ago, not that like I'm not discounting how tough it was for you, but imagine you having those struggles back then that you had, Sergio, and then you got, you know, uncertainty in the marketplace. You got material costs going up, right? You got people with projects, going, I don't know, we should put that on hold, or, I don't know, we should be moving forward with it, all that kind of stuff, right? So that even makes it, adds to it, right? Adds to the pressure. And how did this affect you on the personal front? Like you just had like we're spinning the clock ahead, but when you and I started chatting, you had just had a newborn, and now you've had another newborn. You're a busy guy, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
But like, where was your headspace at when you're coming home back then versus now when you're coming home? What's it
well, I
like?
mean, I felt alone. I felt like I was in it by myself. Even though I had technicians in the field, I felt alone. I felt like I just every bill that went out my account, it was just like like, okay, how am I gonna pay for this now? And it was just
Mm-hmm.
and that hurt because it's like, okay, I'm not paying myself, I'm gonna pay this bill, right? So it was just like every bill that hit my account, like I would like microscope lens on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was tough on me. And then, making rent, making bills, I mean, obviously just had a baby. It's like expenses here and there.
Like where's your head at being a father and a husband?
It was it was tough to be there just because I mean you're just worried about, are we gonna be able to make payroll?
Mm-hmm.
That was huge. Every week was like, are we gonna be able to make payroll? What am I
Mm-hmm.
gonna do? And it's so that was just on my mind. To now fast forward, I don't like bills go through my account. I don't even notice anymore. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just now we integrated everything now that we got going on, so everything's paying for itself. Um, I pay myself now. I don't pay
Mm-hmm.
myself now. Thanks to PFC, I was able to get the profits to pay for team members. So now the team is growing. So now I have someone in the office making sure I get a check every Thursday, whether I want it or not.
I love it.
So I
I
got
love it.
that going on now.
You just had a nice little vacation before the little one came along, right?
Yeah, we just had a vacation and just the team growing.
Things didn't fall apart, right? You didn't come back to the chaos, right?
Things didn't fall apart. We're able to set up some systems in place to where it's systemizing things for them to run. and still keep my eye on the ball on
Mm-hmm.
important tasks,
Mm-hmm.
but also be there present for my family
Mm-hmm.
is just huge, just creating free time for me now, to where I can go play pickleball for a couple of days. I love pickleball, so and not worry about the business falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just been a journey.
That's awesome, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love it. I love it. Everybody listening in, if you know me at all, you've been listening to this podcast. I remember throughout my time of doing this, been doing it for almost 20 years. And it's okay, obviously, for everybody to have their own opinion. All right. But one of the things that I've always, well, I don't know if you want to call it battled against, okay, or challenged others is when they're like, yeah, when you're helping a business owner, it's all about business. Yeah, okay, that might be Google or Apple or something like that. But I call bullshit. When we're running a contracting company, 99% of them are fall into the category of small, medium businesses. Okay, that could be up to 50, 60, could be 5 people, but it really is classified as small, medium business. Okay. And for those of you listening, okay, I call bullshit because we're not dealing with a bunch of shareholders. Okay. We're not dealing with a whole bunch of fucking so much money we don't know what to do with it. We're dealing with this personally. Like when you leave the office, and the phone's ringing and the baby's crying and you're trying to be there for the family, it is fucking hard, man. It is really, really difficult. Wait, you can relate, Sergio?
Oh yeah. It's almost like a disconnect. You're there, but you're not. You're disconnected.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think business owners get a bad rap. And by the way, everybody listening, we're only gonna be like another 15, 20 minutes max. Okay. We're gonna get into what Sergio actually did. Because like I said, it's a no bullshit podcast. We're gonna get you guys actually get some things that you can take away and apply. All right. And but I think we get a bad rap. And it makes sense why we get a bad rap. Okay. Because we're staying late to do quotes. We're staying late to make sure the material's ordered. We're staying late to make sure the customer's issues are addressed and all. But guess what gets sacrificed? The family gets sacrificed. Even if we are there, like you were saying, Sergio, right? Because we're not actually mentally present, even though we're physically present. And I know that, the majority of everybody that we've talked to here, they don't get on here, and that's not what their intention is. They're doing it for their family. They're doing it to try and have a better business, to have a better life. So this business and personal, especially for you contractors out there, it is personal. People say, "Oh, don't take it personally." Bullshit. The business affects you personally. It is a personal thing. So, Sergio, any last comments on that? Like for those listening in?
Yeah. No, I mean, at the end of the day, we all become contractors and business owners to be our own boss, right? To have our own freedom. But in the process, we become a slave to our own company.
Mm,
And we're not really reaping the benefits of becoming a business owner because a lot of us come from the trades and we know how to work. I know how to throw on drywall. I know how to run
mhm.
wire, but I don't know anything about business.
Exactly. Right. And it's not that you don't want to, you just don't. So let's get into that. Okay. So everybody, we're not going to cover everything under the sun. We're going to talk about these aren't the only things, but what were some of the key things that Sergio did to go from a 2%. And be honest with you, when we looked at your numbers, it was less than 2%. Okay. Like you can't run a business, guys, at 2%. And let's be clear, please don't take this wrong. Don't get pissed off at me with what I'm about to tell you. But if you're not serious about applying these things that we're about to cover off, you sure your best to get off the podcast, not waste your time, and seriously think about working for somebody else. And why am I saying that? Because the thing that gets sacrificed is the family, is our time with them, is our time for ourselves. So there is a pathway to profitability and getting your profits to pay for your freedom. But if you don't make a decision sooner than later that I'm going to learn what I need to become a champion CEO to actually know how to run a business, you're better off to go and work for somebody and probably make more money with a lot less stress, or make the decision I want to become a champion CEO, get my profits to pay for my freedom, build an empire, like really get this thing to the next level because you can do it. But do not stay on the fence, man. Okay. Sergio, you made the decision, right? You actually went all in, dude. You were like right on like the decision you made. It wasn't like you had a ton of money to go and invest into getting help, right? You're right on the line.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I had no money. I wasn't paying myself, and it just kind of like you just throw all your money on the roulette table in on black.
Right. Exactly.
Mm.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So let's look at this. So you're spending zero time in the business. You're 45% of your time was dump runs. Okay. When we did a bit of a time audit, right? Your ability to read the financials and leverage that, even though you were trying to look at them, you needed a translator. Okay. You took a leap of faith and here you are today. You know, you got your team is growing, your profits are growing, time with the team is, your family's growing. So back costing. So it was a bit of a revelation, right? So when you did back costing, okay, remember this conversation? I said, Sergio, you doing back costing? What did you say to me? Sorry, coach.
Mm-hmm.
What? And then you wanted to talk about what? Getting more sales. Do you remember this? I said, Sergio, what do you want to focus in on today? And what'd you say?
Need more work.
Yeah. I asked, you doing back costing? He went, nah, sort of. I said, what do you mean, sort of? So tell us, what was going on?
So a couple of friends in the industry that have their businesses, they showed me how they do back costing. That was before one of the first time I heard about it. Before I stumbled on Andrew, and it was just a very basic way to do it. So I was just kind of going off of that. And then when I joined up, and Andrew was like showed us how they do back costing, it was like, wow, this is gonna take up a lot of my
Mm-hmm.
time that I don't have.
Right. Right. So
But if you
then,
don't do it, what's the point of more sales? If you got leaks, I could do $1 million in sales and it wouldn't fix my problem.
well, that actually was your track record,
Yeah.
right? All the work that you had done prior to us coming in, you were making less than 2% on.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's basically next to nothing.
And it's a lot of laziness on our part where you get a job and you just take out your iPhone, you start doing the calculator. Okay, it's gonna take
Yeah.
material this, labor this, I'm gonna add 30%. Here's your price.
Mhm.
And it was like, stop. That's not the way.
So we'll get into that in just a second, which is awesome. Okay. But let's take a look at the back costing.
Okay.
So here you were asking me to help you with more sales. And do you remember my response? I said, I'm not helping you with sales unless what?
Unless I get a back costing report.
Right. Because I'm like, I can help you get more sales, but I'm not gonna help you go into bankruptcy. And you're like, what? I'm like, dude, if we do not know that what you're doing is profitable and how you quote the jobs and how the jobs are being ran, why would I help you potentially without even knowing it? Risk you selling yourself out of a business. True.
True.
So you went and started back costing. Now, the good news was we also leveraged a couple of other things. We got somebody else involved and started to delegate some of this. Who was it that we leveraged?
I got an office staff, my first real hire in the office.
Hmm.
And she's a rock star. She has a construction admin background, and she came in part-time.
Hmm.
So now I wasn't alone, and it wasn't hard anymore.
Hmm.
So it was something like we worked at together, we chipped at together.
Yep.
So she was doing
100%.
all the heavy lifting, and I was coming in and just putting everything together.
Yep. You got it. One of the highest undervalued positions in a contracting company, and it doesn't make us any better than them, is an admin. So everybody listening in, Okay. I don't want to hear any bullshit. I don't care what kind of contracting company you are. I don't care how small you are, how big you are. I don't care. You're the three bears. I don't care. There is a ton of administrative tasks that you guys do that is way below your pay grade. Again, I'm not judging the value of the person doing the admin work. I'm talking about the value of your time. Okay. You don't need to start with a full-time person. You can start with a part-time person. Okay. And they're one of the greatest, easiest areas to hire is an admin person. Okay. Way easier than finding skilled tradespeople. Okay. So Sergio hired the part-time person. We got them on the same page. Okay. And they started tracking with the together in sync on jobs. So, you look, how many jobs, it was within like a 2 to 3 week period, right? We had our call. And I said, okay, by this point in time, you're going to back cost the jobs that you started and you're finishing up. How many jobs roughly? Do you remember? Did you back cost?
Yeah, it was like 15, 20 in that
Yeah, that's
range.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. Okay. And what happened?
We had a green marker for the whiteboard and we had a red marker. There was a shitload of red.
Mhm. Now, Sergio, let's talk about material. You were 17% off on your material. Now you actually are adding an extra 20 over, right? As a buffer. The delta was almost 40% between what you were doing in missing material and now what you're doing. Like it's a 37%. So let's just call it roughly 40. Okay. That's just the material. But Sergio, now you have all these people listening. You know, drywall, how could you ever have missed those boxes of screws? The extra rolls of tape? Tell us, because you are really freaking good at this. So what happened?
Yeah, I mean, it was just being lazy on my end when doing estimates and
Mhm.
also just missing the little things, the
Yes.
tax, the delivery, the corner
Yes.
bead, we got to cover and protect your floors, the plastics. And
The
luckily,
staples.
I got an
Yeah.
ace up my sleeve in PFC and I was able to create templates. So now it's just fast. I have everything in there. My pricing's in there. All my materials are in there. And now
Well,
it's
it's a pre-done template, right?
yeah, it's a pre-done template that,
Mm.
PFC gives you. It's you gotta put some work into it, into your field, obviously,
Yep.
Put your pricing on. Everyone has different pricing.
Yep.
You gotta put in the work. And once you got that now, that's how I got that back up to 20%.
So everybody, I want you to understand something. We're just talking about material right now. So let's put this into perspective. I'm going to do a little bit of math, and I use examples like this many, many times in the podcast, and I keep using them, and I will keep using them till the day I die. Okay, because I want this to hit home. One of the greatest questions, and Sergio said it in the beginning. I'm doing all this work. Where's all the money? I don't see it in my bank account. Having flashbacks, Sergio?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
20%.
Mm-hmm.
20%
So
is
here's the
usually the
problem,
goal.
guys. Let's say you did a $10,000 job. Okay, follow me, guys. Let's fictitiously say, I don't care if it's electrical, plumbing, drywall, insulation, roofing, I don't care. Framing, I don't care. 5,000 of it is material. You miss $1,000 of material. Could be some electrical boxes, a couple of rolls of wire. It adds up quickly. It's only $1,000 and the 10 grand, right? Total job is $10,000 with labor and material. What's $1,000? Here's the problem. Mathematically, guys, high level, let's just say you're lucky that your bottom line, that means your net profit, bottom line at the end of the month, end of the year, after all your expenses, your guys, your crews, everything is 10%. Okay, so your net profit's 10%. If Sergio lost or you guys are losing $1,000 in material, and not including enough of it in missing these little things that add up, $50 here, $100 there, whatever. At 10% net profit, which most of you, when you come here to PFC, are not even making. because most of you don't even know how to read your profit and loss statement. And that's not a bash. You can learn it, but here's what tends to happen. To cover the $1,000, because Sergio had to pay for that material, right, Sergio? Your guys used the material. He would have to land $10,000 worth of more work. And we all know not every quote you do, you land. So he had to do multiple quotes to cover that $1,000. And to cover $1,000, what? 10% of 10 grand is what? $1,000. He would have to not just land it. He would have to do $10,000 worth of work at a minimum net profit of 10% to pay for the 1,000. That was happening on every job you did prior to doing this. Is this true, Sergio?
Yeah, not to mention I get $10,000 worth of sales, but I miss another 1,000 in material, and it's just building up, just a slippery slope.
Yeah, and you know what goes hand in hand with material, Sergio?
What does?
Labor.
Oh yeah.
Labor. Somehow, when it's fact, as a fellow tradie, when whatever the material list is, has a direct correlation to labor. True?
True.
Because you have to use that labor to install the material. So now Now what happened? Well, he was off by at least 4% on your labor. So picture this now, guys. A minus 17 on material and a minus 4 on labor, not including other costs, whether that's permits, traveling, the fuel, right? All of those different things. Correct, Sergio?
The client pays with the credit card, and you weren't expecting fees.
Guys, okay? This is huge, guys, okay? So now, Sergio, how quickly were you able to make the change after we had that call?
I was instantly, because that was priority number one now.
Mhm.
That was
Interesting.
okay. Wait, stop all these quotes I got sending out. Stop. High level. Let's sit down and let's build these templates of how we're gonna price. Let's go negotiate with the supplier. Let's leverage my office staff. All right, now I need a runner. I'm not gonna be spending time on the truck anymore. And it's just a domino effect of, like, if we're keeping it real, it's just a domino effect and a catalyst of just like one thing after another thing after another thing. And once you get that first step of the numbers, and like after we did another, like our next 15 jobs, that's when we got all these positive results.
Love it, man. Love it. So, if people are listening in, Sergio, and they're listening to this, what does any of that have to do with leadership? What is making all those changes, making those decisions? How does any of that systemized part of it have to do with if you're to give advice to people listening in around leadership? Does it have any correlation to leadership?
Yeah, and I mean, if it's one piece of advice that I've learned with my time with you and just everything, is just the why. You have to know the why. Why are we doing this? The team has to know. Because if they don't know the
Mhm.
why, you just no one has motivation. And even us in the staff, even me as a CEO, owner of this company, I didn't even know my why. It's like, why are we doing this? And it's when you ask yourself why, that's when everything starts clicking.
Can you share a little bit about your why? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, well, I mean, we have specific numbers and targets and percentages that are our why.
Mhm.
But the main part is, as a CEO, the why is to get more of my time back to spend on high level thinking, high level tasks, sales, marketing.
Mhm.
Because I mean, if you think about it, there's certain hours in the day that our brain's just clicking, and we're worth thousands of dollars an hour.
Mhm.
When if I
Mhm.
spend that same time doing admin tasks, taking material to jobs, I just wasted my golden hour of the morning.
Mhm. Totally, too. Totally, which goes hand in hand with our last call that we had, right?
Yeah.
Okay, about our focus, about the value of our time, right? About the importance of like making sure our profits and everybody listen to this. Your profits and your cash flow. Remember the why here at PFC, one of the highest whys for you guys is to get your profits to pay for your freedom. Okay. He was able to hire people because he had profits. He was delegating things because he's able to do higher level things. He was able to even expand his team even more and work on systems so that it wasn't all on Sergio's shoulders. And it still isn't. It's less and less on his shoulders. So when Sergio goes home and when you had this newborn, how did that shift your mindset with the second newborn?
Yeah, it was huge because now it's like I got this. It's not a well-oiled machine yet. I mean, we still got a long ways to
Oh
go.
yeah, dude, of course. Of
Like,
course.
we're learning and, but it's just been a process where it's like, okay, if I do decide to switch that flip, like switch the lever and go into business mode while I'm with my family, it's gonna be only for high level response tasks that are really making making it worth my time.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the team could just having the team systemized and with a mission and a purpose, everyone on the same page is just everyone is accountable for everyone's
Mhm.
accountable, and it starts with us as leaders. But I mean, first and foremost, I mean, it's like you need to have profits to be able to start building that.
Totally, dude.
And
Totally.
that's where Andrew started with me because I mean, you start and you just want to hit the ground running, and it's like
Mhm.
there's steps.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. I gotta share some personal with you. And everybody listening, I'll never forget. I listened a little bit to the call when we first had, and I'm gonna tell you what I heard. I heard a man that had a big heart. Your values were in the right place, but you just had a newborn, and I could hear that you were scared. It was scary, right? And it was a big commitment for you to take the risk to go, okay, because as much as I say these things on this podcast, there's a certain amount of faith that you have to have, okay? Because there's a lot of scams and bullshit out there, okay? There is. It's sad. A lot of people getting screwed over, but you were scared. This time, when I heard, now there's a lot of other things, but at a high level, when you were talking about this newborn, right? You were excited. You were excited because the business is going in the right direction, and that weight is like, hey, I can be excited. And that, you guys, think about how many moments in your life maybe it just happened for you, something special. Maybe it was an anniversary, maybe it was a birthday for the kids or whatever, where you're like, man, I was just not in the right place then. Yeah, I was scared. I really wish I had have been able to enjoy that because it's hard to enjoy things when you got all this pressure. Sergio, agreed?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy, man. Okay, so last couple of things as we wrap this baby up is accountability. How is accountability, having somebody to hold you accountable? How is that? What kind of impact has that been on you?
It's like anything in sports, you got a coach. You're playing tennis, you're playing football, soccer, whatever it is, hockey. You have a coach. Without the coach, you're not a team. You need someone else to really keep you accountable
Hmm.
and put you on that right path and bring you back to the tunnel. Because without that, I mean, it's just you're just out here. Imagine the Boston Celtics without a coach. The San Antonio Spurs.
Yes, it's true.
With no Greg Popovich. I mean, it doesn't happen.
And guys, that's a great analogy. I'll tell you what just triggered in my brain. Think about where are the coaches physically? Sergio, where are they? Are they on the field? Where are they?
On the sideline.
They're on the side so that they can see the game, that they get to see a perspective that you can't see. Okay. So that when somebody says, let's focus on sales, somebody's able to take a step back and go, we are going to focus on sales, but this has to come first. Oh, right. Now your bank account. What's your bank account like, Sergio? Much better, right? How's your cash flow?
Much better.
Yeah, right. So, you know, last thing, last couple things wrapping this up. If you were to give advice for the year ahead with all these challenges, tariffs, and price increases and uncertainty, things of that nature, what would you say to other contractors who are stuck in the grind? What would you say to them right now?
I mean, first and foremost, you have to be around like-minded individuals.
Mm,
You got to find a community, and you got to just keep learning, just digging your head in the books. These podcasts are great, and don't be afraid to spend your money on your knowledge because that's the best investment you're gonna do.
mm,
And probably for the rest of my life, I won't stop investing in myself. And I mean, we're contractors. We know that. We know that without a college degree, you can make money. Doesn't mean you have to stop learning. You have to keep
hmm.
learning. I mean, we're in an industry where we get paid for results.
Yep,
We have to create value. And I mean, 30 minutes is nowhere near enough time to sit here and talk about
yep.
everything we need to touch. But I mean, if one like piece of advice, I mean, yeah, first is find your numbers. But like another thing for me was the competition was beating me out. Right. So then you kind of get stuck in a box of being the cheapest number unless you're out here creating value for your customers and pushing results. And that's something we really all learn together in these workshops we have. The community is huge. So how can we create value? Because we're not out here scamming people, we're really making people's lives better with our services.
Hmm.
And how can we make value for not only for our customers, but for anyone around us in life that comes in contact
Hmm.
with us? How can we create value for them? And that's something in this community that we all do. And we try to, we all help each other out and just talking to one of us, and you'll see it's just how can we create value in this industry and for our customer to where they're just like, wow, money
Yeah,
well spent.
yeah. And there's a way to do it, right? We're not going to get heavy into it. We're wrapping this baby up. You guys using secret psychology, really understanding how your prospects are thinking. Okay. It's a process. Okay. And once you get that, it's a differentiator that nobody can touch you right across from your marketing to your sales process to your whole team. Okay. They start talking the language of value. Okay. Versus just a bloody to-do list. Okay. So what's the future? What's next for Molino Drywall?
Next, I need a vacation.
Yeah, baby.
Now we just had a baby. I mean, that's what we do it for, right?
Yeah, see the sleepy eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Business wise, we just want to expand the team. Now I realize I don't need to be doing a lot of sales to get where I want to be.
Hmm.
It's not about being the biggest shark. It's about being the most efficient one,
Most profitable.
the most profitable one.
That's
So,
it, baby.
and I want to use those profits to expand the team.
Hmm.
Most and foremost, my time. I need to get my time
Yep.
back so I could focus on
Yep.
these high level
Yep.
tasks, and just keep learning. Just keep learning
I
every
love it.
day.
I love it. I love it. Okay, final. Okay, is guys, you might be sitting on the fence going like, should I like have a chat with Andrew? Is it going to be some sort of sales pitch or something like that? That's such bullshit. I know it's hard for you to believe that because probably a lot of people you talk to, you feel that way. But Sergio, like really quickly, what was your experience and what would you say to people that are like, man, like, should I raise my hand to have a chat or like, am I going to get a pitch or something? What would you say?
I mean, like I said, it's like having an ace up your sleeve. It's a community. People been there, done that, and it's a process. It's
Hmm.
not easy, But I mean, you could keep doing the same things, or you could change,
Yep.
and you could invest in yourself.
Yep. Totally.
You know,
Totally.
don't be afraid to invest in yourself. I mean, if you
Awesome.
have money sitting around, that's just not good. I'd rather invest in my knowledge and
Yeah.
get
Love
further.
it.
So,
Love it.
I mean,
Okay. Well, listen, guys,
you have
Sergio,
you
like,
have to
thanks, man,
invest.
for everything here. I'd say my biggest thing that I want to say to everybody here is I don't know if you're a fit. I don't know if, we are here to be the right solution for you. I'm not sure. Okay. I will tell you this though. Sergio knows it. Everybody knows it. But if you're going to have a chat with me or my team, we're here to authentically help you. You're going to leave with insights specific to your business, regardless of whether or not there's a fit or not. And that's okay. All right. My passion, and has always been for almost 20 years, is to help contractors, not sell the contractors, but help contractors, regardless of them being a fit or not. You are worth it if you're listening to this. You're worth it. Okay. And one or two strategies can really be a game changer to your business, to your life. It's not going to solve all your problems, but it's going to help you gain that momentum that you need to get to the next level. So, Sergio, brother, thanks for all your time. Okay. Congratulations on the newborn, and to the whole family. And I love you being part of this community. I love seeing the wins that you are making along with everybody else. And I'll see everybody else on the flip. If you want to engage, click it on the link below. We can have a quick chat and see, if or how we can help you, and we'll go from there. So thanks, everybody. Have an awesome day. We'll see you on the next episode of the No Bullshit Podcast. Ciao, man. Later. If this video resonates with you at all, let's be real. You're working your ass off, but your bank account, it doesn't reflect it, right? Jobs keep piling up, the team's not stepping up, and no matter how many hours you put in, it still feels like you're treading water. Sound familiar? Listen, it doesn't have to be that way. I help contractors just like you take back control, make more money, and finally build a business that doesn't suck up all of your time in your life. And it all starts with a free 20-minute call. That's it. If you're tired of grinding with nothing to show for it, hit the link below, book a call, and let's fix this. Look, one step, that's all it takes sometimes to start turning this around. Let's make it happen.